Thanks everyone again for joining. For those of you who just got on here, my name is Ray Guarnieri. I'm the head of business development at Executive IP, which is the global leader in intellectual property trading solutions for businesses. And simply, my job is to help IP professionals establish best practices in intellectual property education in their organizations. On the agenda for today is a brief overview of Executive IP, which is Questel's e-learning solution. And my goal today is to share some best practices in preventing common IP risks by using e-learning to ensure that your colleagues know what they should or shouldn't do, and how, when, and why to pick up the phone and call you. After that, we'll hear from two of Executive IP's customers, Henning Luetjens, head of patents at Bayer, and Mario Cloutier, senior patent agent at Takeda Pharmaceuticals. And then we'll conclude today's session with a Q&A. So if you have any questions, please feel free to enter them in the chat, and then we'll read them off and provide some answers at the end. So since we have several hundred people who registered for today's webinar, and you're from all around the world, thank you, by the way, for joining at these different times a day. Some of you, I know it's late, some of you, it's very early. I just want to acknowledge that if you can't already tell from my American English accent, Executive IP is a US-based company, but obviously we're part of Questel, a global organization, and our clients are all over the world. And more specifically, our solution is designed to be effective wherever you operate. So we create region or country-specific IP training, and we do it in over 15 languages. And we also serve a very diverse array of industries and company sizes. So from startups to the Global 1000, our clients are in industries like industrial machinery and equipment, life sciences, chemicals, automotive, telecom, and so on. So let's dive in. Let's talk about some best practices in establishing a culture of IP savvy, a culture where your people have a basic understanding and appreciation for the risks that IP carelessness poses to your business. Now, as IP leaders, you can probably appreciate how important it is that your technical professionals, research and development, engineers, developers, scientists, but also sales, marketing, supply chain, non-IP lawyers, even your C-suite, VPs, senior managers, you can appreciate how important it is that these people have at least a fundamental understanding of IP. But the common challenge that we see in most IP departments is that you can't be everywhere at all times watching over everybody's shoulders. And most IP departments don't have the time to implement a robust IP awareness program, at least not consistently or efficiently. And even in rare circumstances where this is possible, IP leaders can sometimes struggle to create and deliver consistent messaging about the value and the risks that IP poses to their enterprise. So the question really is, how can you present fundamental information about IP in a way that's not only engaging and memorable, but consistent, efficient, and scalable? So at Executive IP, our solution is to deliver short and engaging IP training videos that can be distributed periodically in bite-sized pieces over a long span of time. And the reality is, most people don't like corporate training, especially on a topic like intellectual property. I mean, I love IP. I know Henning and Mario love IP, but when I get excited and I start talking about patents with my wife, who is a nurse, I get this look that says, please just stop. Simply, most people don't appreciate how IP is applicable to them. And so this is why we use video as the basis for delivering information. It's fun and it's interesting, and it ensures that we position IP as something that everyone should be excited to be a part of. So what are some of these common risks we've been referring to? Well, this list definitely isn't comprehensive, but these are some of the challenges that we've been hearing about most. So number one, aligning directors to your IP strategy. Sometimes in some organizations, IP is seen as a cost center, and you need to reframe the meaning of IP. We hear this all the time. A colleague of mine coined this expression. It's not intellectual property, but rather investment protection. So IP is investment protection. You're protecting your investment in ideas, in products, and in people. The next one on this list is the self-excluding inventor. This is the inventor who doesn't know the difference between ordinarily and extraordinarily skilled in the art. And if I had $1 for every time I heard an engineer say, well, that's not patentable, it's just applied engineering, I would be doing this webinar from my yacht instead of my attic. Innovators, they need to understand patentability, yes, but they also need to appreciate that they're not the final judge. And it's one thing to have a clearly defined process for how, when, and why to interact with your IP department, but it's another to inform people of this process. And we're going to get into that a little bit in a minute. The next on this list, one of my favorite expressions, loose lips sink ships. Everyone within a business, not just innovators, but product managers, sales, marketing, so on, all these people, they need to know about the concept of need to know. They need to not just have an NDA, but they need to read it. They need to know the dates, what types of disclosures it covers, whether it's a one-way or a two-way NDA. And they need to know that just because you have an NDA doesn't mean you can or even should disclose. And finally on this list, which we've been hearing about this a lot, the use of generative AI in the development of products and in sales and marketing campaigns. This is exploding, and few people understand the risks and the best practices for safe use. Now, companies are developing policies around the use of AI, but they need to actually inform people of what these policies entail so that we're not just checking a box to say that we read the policy. So how do we approach these challenges? There are 3 main best practices that we encourage you to adopt. Now, to a certain extent, you can do these things yourselves, or you can hire us to do them for you at a fraction of the cost and less time and little effort. But I'm going to go through them just to give you a starting point. So the first is what we call a planned learning path. So you want to have predetermined periodic distribution of highly engaging, short-form IP awareness content. And the next one on here is on-demand resources. So you want to have on-demand access to pertinent IP educational material that can be accessed or shared by anyone, anytime, anywhere. Flexibility. And the last point on here is customization for business fit. So for people to be really engaged with IP, they need to understand how it impacts them in their role in your business. So it's important to include relevant examples and strategy and process-oriented information whenever possible and applicable. So how does executive IP approach these best practices? Well, on screen now is our library of over 1,000 videos related to IP. Now, for time's sake, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on this. I just want to point out a few things, and then we'll share access to this library after the webinar so you can look for yourselves. I'm looking at this all IP courses collection, and if I scroll down, you can see there's a lot of content here. Now, most of this is globally applicable, but we have region-specific videos where appropriate. For example, on the EPO patent and opposition process, the UPC. And if I click on one of these topics, the table expands and you can see each individual video. And on the right, you see the duration. The average is somewhere between 3 and 6 minutes. Now, this is key because short form content enables you to spread your touch points out over time without overwhelming people. And people are much more likely to engage with the campaign if they're only being asked to spend 5 or 10 minutes at a time. But besides this, drip feeding IP information keeps the topic on people's minds. It predisposes them to pick up the phone and call you when there's an IP issue or an IP opportunity. Now, 1,000 is a lot of videos, but at Executive IP, we don't just toss this over the fence. You know, we don't just hand you 1,000 videos and say, all right, good luck, we'll talk to you next year. We will partner with you to create the best plan for your trainees and help you execute that plan. And so there are three main approaches we take to doing this. The first one I'm going to show here is what we call a curriculum or a learning path, okay? And this relates to that first best practice, right? Pre-designed learning path. So we'll create these custom for each of our clients. Now, on the left of this spreadsheet is just a list of our videos and the duration of the videos here. And then these columns on the right represent different functions within a business. And where it says month 1, month 2, and so on, that just means we'll deliver those videos to those people each month, and so on. So you get the idea. Now, when we first get started, what we'll do is we'll sit down with you and figure out who you want to train. What does this grouping look like for you? And then what are the main topics that are relevant to each audience, and how much time you want them to spend on a weekly or a monthly basis. Then from there, we'll select the most relevant videos from our library, put them in a logical order, and distribute them to trainees. Now, to the end user, it's very straightforward. So they get an email, they click a link, they spend 5 or 10 minutes watching 1 or 2 videos. Sometimes they answer a short quiz, and then they move on with their lives. And this approach ensures that the information that we share is relevant to people. Not everyone needs to know the same things about IP. So curating a curriculum of IP training videos based upon the roles or the functions of your trainees will increase the probability that they'll actually adopt the training. And this is really key because you can have the best IP basics slide deck or white paper on your intranet page, but if no one looks at it, it isn't really doing you any good. Now, the second best practice that I mentioned, which was related to on-demand resources, we have an approach for this too. Now, you certainly can put information on your innovation page and your company intranet, but one of the things we can provide you with is what we call a resource page or an IP training library. And simply, we'll give you something that looks like this, right? This is a branded version of that demonstration library that I showed you before. So we give you a version with your logo at the top, and you can put this anywhere. You could put it on your innovation page, on your SharePoint site, or even in your email signature. This is a place where people can come to learn more about IP. They could browse by topic, they could type a query in the search box, and all they need to do to watch one of these videos is click on the title or on the play button, and it opens in a new tab. Now, this is a more passive approach to delivering information about IP, but it is helpful because this also gives you a tool to respond to unanticipated needs. And I'll give you a great example. So recently we had a client, not Bayer, by the way, we had a client shared this story. So, and I think I've told Mario and Henning, I think I've told you this story before in the past. Our client had an inventor send them an email with a patent number in the subject line. And in the body of the email, they said, I think we're infringing this patent. So the IP attorney at this company came to their resource page and they looked up the video, what you put in writing could adversely impact litigation. They just right-click, copied the link to this video, pasted that into a reply, and hit send. So you can see that this is an easy way of taking advantage of learning opportunities that arise naturally in your day-to-day interactions. Now, I'm sure that everyone here would like to see a sample of one of these videos, but for time's sake, we're not going to do that. Instead, we'll share the whole catalog with you after the webinar so you can look at whatever interests you. So to wrap this up, I just want to talk quickly about this last best practice, customization for business fit. But to do that, I need to give you a quick history of executive IP. So since we started 11 years ago, every video that we've created after the first 5 has been created at the request of our clients, the folks like Mario and Henning, who you'll hear from in a moment. So they come to us and they say, hey, we like your 5 videos, but we need a program on freedom to operate, IP enforcement, how to read a patent, trade secrets, trademarks, and so on. And so we created it for them. And in the process, we established a very cost and time efficient method for creating new IP training material. So if you suggest a topic for a video that you need that we don't already have, we draft a script, review and revise it so it says exactly what you want it to say, and then we film it and edit it and put it into the library and quickly and at no additional cost to you. So this means really 4 things for you. Number 1, because we work with some of the biggest companies in the world, their fingerprints are all over this training library. It's peer reviewed in a sense. Number 2, you'll always have exactly the right message being delivered to your trainings. Number 3, as you request new videos and our other clients request new videos, the value of the information in this library compounds over time. And finally, if you need totally custom training, which brings us back to customization for business fit, we'll create that for you. So we'll create videos that are only available to your organization, and we'll do this for you at no additional cost. And I know Henning has taken advantage of this in the past at Bayer. So if you have a question about how we can help you customize your IP awareness trainings for business fit, definitely please feel free to enter it in the chat. Last quick point before I pass this on to Henning and Mario, I just want to mention that we do offer a free, no commitment pilot program. So if anyone's interested in this, you can reach out to me directly at my contact information on screen. We're also going to send out these slides and a recording of the presentation in the coming days. So I know I threw a lot of information at you all at once, but I hope that you found this beneficial. So if you have any questions, please enter them in the chat, and we'll do our best to address each of them during the Q&A at the end. So without further ado, I will pass the baton first to Henning Luetjens from Bayer to share a bit about why they decided to work with Executive IP, what they've done with us, and how it's going. So Henning, take it away.
Right. Thank you, Ray. Hi, great to be here today. Just a very brief introduction. My name is Henning Luetjens. I'm a German and European patent attorney working at Bayer, a big German life science company, even though you can tell from my background that I'm not in the office today on behalf of the weather conditions here. And I have been active in a variety of roles over the last 23 years. And one of them currently is indeed training, both internally, so the IP colleagues, but also externally. And in that context, it was only natural that I came across the executive IP videos. At Bayer, obviously, the recognition of the importance of IP has always been very high, as both our pharma and crop science businesses depend a lot on effective patent protection. Additionally, of course, we also need strong trademarks for those businesses and for consumer health in particular. And theoretically, or not theoretically, traditionally, how did we do that? We ran pretty big all-day in-person workshops with as many of the new employees as we could get our hands on, particularly those in R&D, as well as more specific workshops later on in the individual business units, but all of them face-to-face. And however, with on the one hand, fewer patent councils around, following some restructuring, and also a much more spread out R&D landscape, less availability for travel and learning in general, just time constraints. We had already dabbled a bit with the idea of moving at least part of this training to some way of online training. However, we found out that doing that by ourselves, if you're not a professional, it can be quite tedious and certainly not effective. So when we learned about the executive IP videos, those came really as a great asset to us, as a very good sort of addition to our activities. So we started reviewing those videos, and one thing that struck me immediately was that I still like very much is that the presenter, you can tell very quickly that he really knows the stuff. So he's not just a talking head, but someone who has done the job himself and knows what he's talking about, and he's passionate about this. And that helps a lot in terms of credibility and buy-in. And also later on, something that is appreciated a lot are these customized videos. So it rings a lot more with people when they see, in our case, a Bayer logo somewhere, or a direct reference to a hot topic at Bayer. So essentially, we did in-license those videos for a number of years. And so how do we utilize them? How do we get them to the target audience, our employees? There are a number of avenues we're going. And on the one hand, Bayer, and I suppose many other companies will have that as well, has a platform which is called Go Learn, which is available to each and every employee for in-house education purposes. So it was quite straightforward to upload the videos there. And in principle, every employee can search for those videos and look at them at his or her leisure. But as Ray already said, enthusiasm for the topic is not always as big with many people as it is with us. But this Go Learn platform offers something even better, the opportunity to create so-called pathways, which are very similar to the learning path you presented. So you can group several videos together by topic and arrange in a suitable order. And that is what I did. I created a number of specific pathways directed to different target audiences. R&D people, for instance, would learn a lot about inventions, patents, trade secrets, and a little bit about trademarks, whereas for marketing people, it would be the other way around. A little bit about, just enough about patents and more on trademarks and trade dress. And these pathways can then be assigned to different groups of people with the help of the HR department. And also integrated into other pathways. For instance, the most important pathway, in my view, is called IP awareness for R&D, which is obviously directed at R&D. And that is hardwired, so to speak, into the standard onboarding process, which is done by Go Learn for every new R&D employee. Also, in addition to that, what can be done is use other communication platforms such as internet articles or Teams channels to promote individual videos that are just hot off the topic of the press and important topics. A good example in the last year was a very up-to-date video on the Unified Patent Court that opened its doors here in Europe. Or another one called What Everybody Can Do About IP Infringement. And these promotions proved remarkably effective with really high click numbers achieved. So that is a very valuable way. And another way that I utilized was also something that Ray hinted at. So when you get during their daily work a question about an IP topic, these days the answer is always accompanied by one or more video links for those who want to know to learn more. This is something I also encourage my colleagues, the other patent counsels, to do, because it saves a lot of time, and in many cases it's very efficient also sort of in setting up training sessions to say, well, the basic fundamentals you can learn from these videos, and we can then immediately start at a much higher level and use what time we have for more sophisticated topics. An interesting facet that I found out was that actually quite a few IP colleagues and also legal colleagues use this resource to sort of secretly brush up on their IP skills. So that is really great. I think that shows the level of appreciation for those videos. Put bluntly, that they are really good. Even my vocational trainees, the future patent paralegals, have started really digging into those videos. And of course, for them it makes a lot of sense because they have so much to learn. One particular group of videos I would like to point out are those related to contracting themes. I think here a lot of benefit can be reaped because they very nicely address all those considerations and questions any employee should ask himself or herself before even initiating the contracting process. And rather than sort of spending the first 2 hours of talking to that person, addressing those fundamentals, if that can be sort of done via the video, that is extremely helpful. So in summary, my personal assessment is that these videos are great and valuable set of arrows in our quiver, so to speak. And so far, the results have been very encouraging. The feedback is good to great. But we're still trying new avenues, new ways of getting more and more people hooked on those videos and on the topic of IP in general. So it will be very interesting to see the road of that by the end of this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Henning. Really appreciate that. Great overview, great feedback. And there's a few questions I see that people have put in. I'm just going to hold off on that for a minute. I want to introduce Mario Cloutier from Takeda Pharmaceutical, who's going to share a little bit about their experience, and then we'll go right into answering some of your questions. So Mario, the baton is yours.
Great, thanks, Raymond. Thanks, Henning, as well. So our experience is very similar to Henning's, except for the fact that we haven't, I don't believe we've been a customer for as long as they have. We've been a customer for just a little under a year now. So our experience is that Takeda has been very busy making acquisitions. The most recent one was a pretty big acquisition, Bayer Pharmaceuticals. And when that happened, it was such a big company that we acquired that it kind of flipped everything on its head to a certain degree, in the sense that we had very disparate processes between companies. And so a lot of harmonization needed to be done in order to get back to having, a unified way of doing things. Much like Henning described beforehand, we would do live face-to-face type training at different sites. Different sites had different ways of doing things, but for the most part, they were live presentations. We had dabbled into creating PowerPoint presentations where someone would speak over the presentation and they would have a little snippet. You could see them a little bit on one of the corners. And we had put that on our LMS system. But as you can imagine, it was pretty dry. Even for seasoned patent experts, watching it was tough. and they tended to be long and they weren't very engaging. So we had that. So we had already dabbled into the digital aspect. So when the acquisition occurred and we did all this harmonization, we ended up getting this new LMS system that is across all regions, across all employees. And it's really like a learning platform that anybody can go to learn whatever they're interested in learning. So that gave us an incentive to create something, an IP channel that would have engaging videos. But we didn't have the engaging videos, so we started looking around to see what our options were. And we found plenty of free videos on YouTube and USPTO website, etc. But they tend to be long and they tend to be quite dry. And we weren't overly thrilled with what we were finding. And then we looked into potentially hiring like a video creation company. But when we got quotes from them, it was a little actually very expensive. So that was a non-starter. And then we came across executive IP, and we started speaking, Raymond and I. And then Raymond, said that he could do a pilot for us. So we were pretty excited about that. We did that last January, actually. I gave Raymond names of participants with their emails that were volunteering to participate in the pilot. And every week they would receive a certain number of pre-selected videos for them to view. And then after the 3 weeks, they would be able to comment on their experience. And so based on that and the feedback we received, we were committed at that point. And so we got on board, we got the videos, and much like Henning described, we created pathways in our LMS system to using these videos, different short videos to create pathways. And we've released that. The challenges that we face though is getting engagement, because we haven't yet made anything mandatory, because being in a pharmaceutical industry, it's very regulated. Employees typically get a lot of mandatory videos, and so there's a lot of hesitancy to add a lot more to the mandatory videos. So we're still working through that, and Henning's recommendation to use Zoom, I thought that was interesting. So thank you for that. And yeah, we haven't started doing any customization videos yet, but we've had discussions about that. With that said, we did have a video that we created at some point, but we couldn't finalize it properly, and Executive IP was able, their tech experts were able to help us see it through and make it work for us. So that was great.
Thank you, Mario. I really appreciate that. And thank you for mentioning the pilot and how that works, because someone put that question in the chat. If anyone has any follow-up questions about how the pilot works, you can reach out to us, and we'll help get you set up on that. There were a few questions, some good questions in here actually. One of them came in before Henning and Mario started, and it was, can this be done on our internal learning management system? So if you hadn't picked up, both Bayer and Takeda are using their learning management system to deliver these trainings. We say we're platform agnostic. So we have a platform that we can use to deliver these trainings. If you don't have an LMS learning management system, or you don't want to use yours for whatever reason, but then all of the training content that you saw in that library is fully compatible with any learning management system. It's to the point where it's really just plug and play. Another question was, what are some samples of the custom videos? So obviously, when we make something custom, it's confidential. Like only our clients can see that video unless they give us prior permission. I can speak to just some general categories of the types of videos that we make. But first, I want to check, Henning, if you wanted to, if you don't want to share specifics, or if you want to just talk like high-level categories, I'll let you take that one, or you can pass it back to me.
Right. No problem at all. Really, one specific example: Bayer, being a German-centric company, has to deal a lot with the joys and complexities of the German employee remuneration act, and sort of the way of transferring rights to inventions from employee inventors to the employer. And for instance, we created a set of 3-4 videos actually that dedicated to that topic, and that also had a very strong Bayer focus, of course, to sort of pick up some of the peculiarities how we do it.
Yeah, those were really great videos. And just at a high level, some of the other categories, sometimes it's just as simple as a 2-3 minute overview of why IP is important to your business. So you could do, some samples of your patents and your trademarks and vaguely mention what trade secrets you have and why those things are valuable to your business. Or it could be more specific and process oriented, like the videos that Henning mentioned, where it's about a specific national law, or maybe it's your internal process for filling out an invention disclosure. So those are just some of the samples. We can give you more offline if you want to follow up after the webinar. We can give you some more examples. Another question was, how much does it cost? And someone also asked about whether or not the branded library, the one I showed for Bayer, is included in the cost, or if that's an extra price. So that's included in our business model. That comes with every subscription. And our business model is based upon how many people you want to train and whether or not you commit to between 1 and 5 years. We offer discounts for signing up for multiple years. That's it. So I can give more. I can give. I won't say your name who asked that question, but I can give you specific pricing if you can give us some sense as to how many people you'd want to include in the training program. So feel free to shoot me an email, or I'll follow up with you after the webinar. Another question was, how can the videos be, or can the videos be played live? So the answer to that is yes, absolutely. Henning and Mario both hinted at different communication channels that you can use to get these videos in front of people. It's really important to do the best you can to master all of the communication channels you have available to you, whether it's Slack or Teams or Zoom or your monthly company newsletter, your intranet page, as well as, of course, email and learning management systems. And one thing that's one of our clients, I think actually a few of our clients have some of our videos playing on a monitor next to their patent award wall when you walk through the library. You see the presenter talking about why is IP important to our company. Another great example is when they do their monthly. One of our clients has a monthly like office hours session where people can come and ask the IP department questions. They kick that off with a 5-minute video, so it could be streamed live right on Microsoft Teams or Zoom, or if you're in a conference room, you can put link your computer monitor to a TV screen or a projector and just play the videos live. So there's lots of different flexibility for how you can get them in front of people. I'm just reading some more questions that have come in now. So this question is about, I think, tracking of participation, if I understand the question correctly. So the question is, do we track completion? And the answer to that is yes, of course. Every learning management system, whether you use yours or ours, has the ability to track user engagement. So you'll get a report on an ongoing basis that tells you who did the training, who didn't do it, what are the overall rates of completion, and of course, we'll work to always try to get 100%. Not everyone makes IP training mandatory. In fact, most people don't, which means you're always fighting an uphill battle to get as many people as you can to engage. We typically see anywhere from 40 to 80% overall engagement when the training program is optional. It averages about 55, 60%. If that's, and for context, the industry standard in the e-learning industry for optional training is 10 to 20% engagement, 10 to 20%, based on Association for Talent Development statistics that they put out in their annual report, which is really bad. It just goes to show you that if you put it up somewhere and hope that people go look at it, you're lucky if 1 or 2 out of 10 will actually look at it. So we typically see 55 average. 40 is on the lower end, but it's still, the idea is to not necessarily to have everybody become experts on these topics, but to have enough of a critical mass within your organization that's savvy enough so that at least one person on every team knows when the moment strikes to pick up the phone and call you. There was one other question here, which is a very challenging question. First, I'll leave it to Henning and Mario. I have some thoughts on this, but it was how do the videos help align, or can we give it an example or a use case of how the videos help align managers or directors, senior managers, to the company's IP strategy? I don't know off the top of my head, Henning or Mario, if this is something you have looked at or even want to comment on, but I'll let either of you go first. Or if you want to pass it back to me, just say pass.
Well, so from our experience, I don't think we've gotten there yet, because it's been such a short amount of time since we've had the videos, and we're still working on getting people to know about them and watch them and be engaged in everything. We have made management aware so that they could let the people on their groups know that this channel exists, and to encourage them to watch the videos. But in terms of how it's been able to impact our IP strategy, I mean, if we had custom videos about what our IP strategy was, then I think we would be able to meet that. But I think just having people generally aware and savvy enough about all the different aspects of IP using these videos gets us most of the way there.
Yeah, a rising tide lifts all ships, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing I was going to say. The other thing too, just to build off that, Mario, is a lot of the time when that's a specific challenge, customization comes into play. But even so, and I'm sure both of you can, I mean, correct me if you disagree, but our video library, the videos are not, it's not just about what IP is, but why it's important to the business and why that matters. So even if, you know, and we do create programs for executives, specifically for targeted to senior management, and they're usually extremely busy. So we're talking about, you know, maybe they only watch one video a month. But if we can get across not just what IP actually is, but why it's important to your business or any business really, that can go a long way. Surprisingly, that knowledge is not as common as you would expect among senior leadership. I'm not making any accusations about Bayer or Takeda at all, but we do find that that can be a challenge, especially in organizations where IP is seen as, you know, a cost center. Henning, did you want to add anything to that?
Much along the same lines, really. It would probably need a specific video directed to the respective IP strategy of that business area. So far, we've used the videos to raise the level of IP awareness in general, and indeed, the IP strategy is so far being taught or sort of communicated in person. So the short answer would be no, I suppose, but also because it has not been in the focus. I would think that a proper video would certainly help a lot to do the job.
Yeah, and you know, I think it's fair to say that there's a great deal of buy-in around IP within Bayer and Takeda, but for some organizations they don't have that, and so to the person who asked that question, I'm more than happy to give you some more specific case studies offline. Thank you all for continuing to stay on. I know we're almost at the end of our time here. There's just a couple more questions. Several of you asked questions about languages. So you mentioned you're multinational or you operate in different parts of the world. Our library, all of our videos in the training library by default are available with subtitles in 17 languages. So it's spoken by a presenter in English, but all of the text that's spoken and on screen, which is also in the script, is available in 17 languages, including French, German, Spanish, Italian, Dutch, Chinese, Japanese, Korean. I don't have them all memorized, but pretty much every language you're going to need. We're also in the process of adding additional languages. So there should be, I think, 27 or 28 total languages by the end of this year or early next year with subtitles. On top of that, we're also investing in creating more videos with native speakers on camera. As I'm sure you can imagine, that is a significantly higher cost. We're part of Questel, so we have a very powerful translation business that can help us create the translated text. But the native speakers is a bit more of an investment. As of today, we have, I believe, 60 videos with a German native speaker, 30 with a Japanese native speaker, and about 15 or 20 with a French native speaker. It is in our roadmap to add more. We love to hear feedback from you. So if there are specific languages where you think that you would need that, please reach out to me. Last question that was on here, sorry, there's two more, was about quizzes. Yes, there are quizzes. They're customizable as well to make the videos interactive. So we can add, if you want to write your own questions, or you can use the ones we have by default. And then the last question was, how long does it take to set up the system? So Henning, Mario, I'll let you comment on that. It varies whether you're using your platform or ours. If you use our platform, basically as quickly as you can approve the curriculum and put together a list of participants, we have it up and running. But Henning, I know we did a pretty big integration of the content. Maybe you want to comment on that first, and Mario, same.
Yes, that was the upload onto the Go Learn system, but that went relatively smoothly. I would say it took, it has been some while, I would say, but no longer than two months at the longest, I think, and that was over the Christmas break. So we were so when I joined, that was near the end of the year, and we were operative pretty much towards the start of the next year. And after that, indeed, was a matter of sort of the ball was in my half. I needed to set up the pathways, etc., etc. But the videos were there relatively quickly.
Mario, do you want to comment on that too? Sure. In our experience, it was actually a little bit faster than 2 months, I believe. Once the agreement was signed, we were given a download of the SCORM packages for each of the videos, which is a pretty big download. But aside from that, it was very straightforward. I was able to start creating pathways within, I don't know, 3 weeks maybe from the time we executed the agreement. It was very quick.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, guys. What we typically will tell people is if you're using your platform, anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks, depending on the scope of the program and how many people you want to target. Obviously, the bigger the organization and the bigger the audience, the more time that could take building out those pathways. But 2 to 6 weeks, if you throw a holiday in there in between, maybe it becomes 8 weeks. But that's about the average. It's a very simple technical process. It's not like a complicated software integration or anything like that. Okay, those were most of the questions. I know there were 1 or 2 we didn't get time to address, but we're approaching the top of the hour here. Gone past our 45 minutes, and I'm grateful. I see most of you were able to stay on to the very end. So thank you for being here. Special thanks to Henning and Mario for a great presentation. And we look forward to hearing from some of you and maybe doing some pilot programs with you.